Out of nowhere, someone started yelling in confusion, wondering what was going on. He said he'd felt completely fine just a moment ago, so why had everything suddenly gone dark? Annoyed, he muttered that paying this month's electricity bill was clearly a waste, then paused, realizing something felt off. It wasn't just darkness, it felt like something was covering his eyes. A faint strip of light slipped through. Beneath a large red mushroom cap dotted with white spots, a pair of wide, uneasy eyes peeked out. A small, pale hand reached up, shaking slightly, as the creature nervously tried to lift the heavy cap. Once it managed to move it aside, it found itself standing in front of a rough stone wall. The reaction was immediate. He shouted in shock, clearly not prepared for what he was seeing. Looking down at a puddle nearby, he caught his reflection. That's when things started coming back to him. He remembered being in bed earlier, caught up in an intense moment with a beautiful woman. The memory was vivid, the heat, the closeness, everything. Then it hit him. Somehow, that was the last thing he experienced before ending up here, now as a small mushroom creature. He flopped around on the ground, going on about how ridiculous this was. He complained that this had to be some kind of joke and questioned how he was supposed to flirt with anyone looking like this. He even demanded his old, attractive face back. Then a voice called out, "Brother Xingbao." He turned toward the cave entrance, where a shadowy figure stood. As he focused, his imagination kicked in, and suddenly he pictured a stunning woman in a stylish outfit, surrounded by floating hearts and flowers. For a moment, he was completely captivated, thinking maybe this place wasn't so bad if it had girls like that. But the illusion didn't last. The image faded, revealing a small purple mushroom person instead. The purple one asked why Xingbao had been saying such strange things all day. Xingbao awkwardly admitted he got carried away and asked what he usually said instead. The purple mushroom explained that mushroom creatures typically stuck to simple lines, like shouting about intruders and attacking them. Right on cue, a shout echoed from deeper in the cave. Xingbao turned just in time to see another mushroom creature charging forward, yelling about intruders. Behind it, a huge foot slammed into the ground, attached to a muscular orc with glowing red eyes. Two figures approached. Labu, a level 1 orc archer, and Kabu, a level 1 orc warrior. Labu sounded unsure, asking if they'd really be fine without a healer. Kabu brushed it off, saying there was nothing to worry about since the monsters here were the weakest kind. He explained that dungeon monsters weren't smart anyway, they just followed fixed patterns. Almost immediately, a small mushroom enemy leaped forward, shouting its attack line. Kabu didn't hesitate. He swung his blade and cut it down in one clean move. The creature let out a final cry as it collapsed. Kabu casually pointed out that this was exactly what he meant, suggesting they could probably clear the dungeon quickly again today. Moments later, a whole group of mushroom creatures rushed in, all yelling the same thing, only to be cut down one after another by Kabu's relentless strikes. Watching all of this unfold, Xingbao was left stunned. Standing next to him, the purple mushroom wondered out loud why their kind always rushed straight into danger like that, instead of backing off when they clearly couldn't win. Then it explained that they were NPCs, meaning everything they did was pre-programmed. They didn't have the same freedom as players. Xingbao processed that and realized the two orcs were actually players, something he hadn't expected, since he assumed players were usually human. The purple mushroom added that, as an NPC with only a bit of extra dialogue, that was pretty much all it knew. An arrow cut through the air with a sharp whistle, just barely missing. Up on a rocky ledge, Labu, the level 1 orc archer, stood with her bow ready. Xingbao reacted instantly, yelling in shock as he realized they were being attacked. He told the purple mushroom to run, but the little guy just stood there, looking confused. Without wasting time, Xingbao rushed over, grabbed him, and told him they needed to move. The purple mushroom calmly explained that running away wasn't something they were programmed to do. Xingbao didn't accept that. He reached out and told him to grab his hand. The moment they touched, the space around them flickered violently. Red system warnings popped up everywhere, flashing messages about errors and data issues. Xingbao pushed through it anyway, saying none of that mattered, they just needed to stay alive. The purple mushroom stared at him, clearly amazed, as Xingbao dragged him along and broke into a run. Up on the ledge, Labu watched the scene unfold, confused. She wondered when mushroom creatures started running away and questioned if what she was seeing was even accurate. Beside her, Caboose shrugged it off, saying it was probably just some kind of bug. He mentioned filing a report once they were out and casually told Labu not to get taken out while he logged off to report it. Labu shot back that he had to be joking if he thought she'd go down in a place like this. Meanwhile, Xingbao and the purple mushroom ducked behind a stack of logs. Xingbao quickly asked if there were any weapons they could use, but the answer was no, their kind wasn't designed to carry any. Just then, something caught his eye across the cavern. He pointed it out, excited, after spotting a large treasure chest. The purple mushroom warned him that those chests were only meant for players and couldn't be opened by them. Xingbao ignored that and reached for it anyway. As soon as he did, the glitching came back even stronger. More warning messages filled the air, and his hands started glowing with a strange, jagged energy. With a strong push, he forced the chest open, sending bits of wood flying. The purple mushroom stood there, stunned, thinking that the Xingbao he knew would never be able to do something like that. It couldn't figure out how he had suddenly changed so much. Xingbao didn't stop to explain. He immediately started digging through the chest, saying there was a lot of useful stuff inside. Before he could do much more, another arrow came flying in. Without thinking, the purple mushroom jumped in front of him, taking the hit. Even it didn't understand why it moved like that. It knew protecting others wasn't part of its programming, but it still chose to block the attack. The arrow hit, sending it tumbling back as purple blood splashed out. From above, Labu called out that she was firing again. She released another arrow, aiming straight for Xingbao. As it sped toward him, Xingbao pulled out a sword from the chest. With a quick swing, he struck the arrow mid-flight, knocking it away in a burst of sparks. On the ledge, Labu could only stare. She noticed the sweat forming on her face as it sank in. What she just saw didn't make sense. A basic mushroom creature had just deflected her shot and opened a chest that should have been off-limits to anything but players. Looking down at the scene, she quietly realized this wasn't some small glitch. It was something much bigger. Near a rocky clearing, right beside a swirling purple portal, a massive orc gave his report to a shadowy administrator, saying these were the bugs they had found this time. The figure simply acknowledged it, but the orc wasn't satisfied and went on to question how long the dungeons had been running and why issues like this still kept appearing. A cloaked figure stepped out from the darkness. He explained that with systems this old, small mistakes during maintenance were unavoidable, so minor bugs showing up wasn't anything unusual. He continued by explaining how it all started. After the Great Lich defeated the human coalition long ago, he became concerned that the remaining heroes would cause trouble if they had nothing to do. So, he created the dungeon system to keep them occupied. Since then, those heroes had been entering as players, spending their time grinding monsters, collecting resources, and leveling up just to pass the time. Whenever they found a bug, they were supposed to report it to the necromancer admins and wait for it to be fixed. The scene shifted inside the dungeon. The orc archer clearly had no interest in waiting. She raised her bow and said she'd deal with the problem herself. A powerful arrow shot forward, aimed straight at a small red-spotted mushroom creature. The mushroom reacted quickly, dodging the attack. As it moved, it started realizing that this body actually had pretty solid base stats. The orc didn't slow down, sending arrows one after another. In response, the mushroom pulled out a cleaver and started deflecting them. Even so, it admitted to itself that getting closer wasn't easy with such short legs while being pressured non-stop. Then it spotted a nearby treasure chest and wondered if there was something it could use. As another arrow came flying in, the mushroom grabbed the wooden lid and rushed forward, using it as a shield to block the incoming shot. Watching this, the orc reacted in disbelief, pointing out that a mushroom creature was actually using a chest lid like proper gear. The way it moved made it feel less like a monster and more like a player. Using the scattered debris as support, the mushroom pushed off and launched itself into the air, spinning with its cleaver. The orc looked up just in time to see it coming down. In one clean motion, the mushroom struck, releasing a bright blue arc that cut straight through her. Her body split apart as the mushroom landed. A glowing blue interface appeared, announcing that it had just secured its first kill. More messages followed, listing newly unlocked racial abilities. One allowed it to connect with other mushroom units, sharing information, spores, and even experience. Another let it plant itself or others onto corpses or nutrient-rich areas to recover and gain abilities from what it absorbed. The last one gave it the option to switch between its current form and another reshaped version. The mushroom stared at the floating text, briefly wondering if it had actually gained a system. Then it brushed it off, deciding that after everything else, this wasn't that strange. The system announced that the skill plant mushroom had been activated. The creature moved its foot toward the fallen orc's body, and thin fungal tendrils extended outward, piercing into the flesh as the absorption began. Almost instantly, it reacted out loud, describing the sensation as strangely overwhelming and addictive. Once the process ended, the mushroom creature stood over what remained of the defeated hero. It then recalled how the purple mushroom had stepped in earlier to block an attack for him. Without hesitating, he carefully placed the purple mushroom's body on top of the orc woman's remains, saying it was now his turn to save her. He activated plant mushroom again. A soft pink glow spread from his hand, growing brighter as energy rose from the corpse. The light gathered and slowly began forming a shape, an outline of a woman taking form within the glow. The pink glow grew stronger, lighting up the area as the mushroom man let out a long, stunned reaction, completely caught off guard by what was happening. His expression turned exaggerated and over the top as the energy kept building. Then, as the smoke slowly cleared, a figure stepped forward. A woman appeared, long dark hair flowing behind her, marked with a distinct pink streak, and sharp elf-like ears framing her face. Right after, a system window appeared, laying out her details. It showed that she was now a level 2 Mushroom Man archer, ranked as a guard, with agility as her main strength and the mycelium racial trait. More information followed, explaining her abilities. She could recover by absorbing nutrients from fallen enemies, and even take in their skills and traits during the process. One of those, Orc Berserk, was already active, boosting her damage for a short time. She also had a skill that allowed her to fire spore-based shots that drained enemies while restoring her own health. The woman then knelt in front of him, addressing him as her chief and asking what name she should carry. Another system prompt appeared, telling him to name his first subordinate. He paused for a moment, wondering if creatures like them usually even had names, then pointed at her and decided she would be called Siphon. She accepted the name without hesitation and immediately asked which dungeon they were going to clear next. He corrected her right away, reminding her that they weren't players, they were monsters, part of the dungeon itself. His expression shifted into something darker, a wide grin spreading across his face as his eyes gave off a faint glow. He made it clear that their goal wasn't to clear anything, but to eliminate the remaining player. Nearby, a huge orc warrior came across what was left of Labu, just a skull and scattered remains. He paused, clearly thrown off, muttering that there was no way someone like Labu could have been taken out by something so low tier. He figured a normal level 1 Mushroom Man couldn't pull that off, so he convinced himself it had to be a rare elite. That idea alone got him fired up, already thinking about the kind of loot it might drop, maybe even some blue gear. Without wasting time, he activated his skill, Orc Charge. The Mushroom Man steadied himself, gripping his cleaver as the orc closed in. With a powerful leap, the orc brought his axe crashing down, smashing the ground hard enough to crack the stone beneath. The Mushroom Man slipped out of the way at the last second and answered with a quick slash across the orc's thigh. Blood sprayed out from the cut. The Mushroom Man noted to himself that this one was far tougher than the archer from before. His attack barely made a dent. The orc, meanwhile, was furious, shouting that the Mushroom Man had no right to land a hit like that. Instead of pressing the fight, the Mushroom Man turned and ran toward a nearby cave. The orc charged after him, heavy footsteps pounding behind. Their chase led them across a wooden bridge. By the time the orc reached the other side, the structure behind him gave way, collapsing into pieces. Smoke and dust drifted through the air as the orc looked up and spotted the Mushroom Man standing calmly on a wooden platform above. He smirked, wondering out loud why the creature was just standing there, staring without moving. For a second, he considered the idea of a trap, but quickly brushed it off, saying it was just an NPC. Still, the silence got under his skin, making him feel like he was being laughed at. His face tightened as he yelled that he'd turn the Mushroom Man into paste. He swung his axe with full force, but the impact caused the platform itself to crack and give way. The wood shattered beneath him, and suddenly he was falling, looking up in shock as he dropped straight toward the water below. He hit the surface with a loud splash. When he came back up, he shouted angrily, calling the attack cheap and underhanded. Above him, the mushroom man stood at the ledge, observing that the orc had lost his weapon and was now slowed down in the water. Without hesitation, he threw his cleaver downward. The blade struck the orc's shoulder, drawing another burst of blood. The orc scoffed, calling the mushroom man weak, saying that attacks like that wouldn't do much while he was in the water. The orc struggled to stay afloat, still talking through the fight as he mocked his opponent, wondering out loud what kind of damage someone that weak could even deal. Before he could finish, an arrow cut through the air and hit him straight in the neck, spraying blood everywhere. He started coughing hard, blood spilling from his mouth as he demanded to know who was attacking him from the shadows. His strength gave out, and he dropped backward into the water with a heavy splash. For a moment, his hand reached up from the surface, then slowly disappeared beneath it. High above, a figure stood quietly on a rocky ledge, watching everything unfold. A system message popped up, announcing that the orc berserk effect had ended, while the mushroom man stood near the water below. Another message followed, confirming that the orc warrior had been eliminated. The mushroom man looked down at what was left floating in the water and figured it was finally his turn. He reached out toward the corpse, and strands of pink energy started wrapping around it. A bright glow surrounded him as the system displayed that his appearance was being reshaped. Steam and pink light swirled around his body. When it cleared, a human figure stood in place, a muscular man with dark hair and a noticeable white streak. He let out a laugh, saying he had finally put himself back together. From above, Saifeng looked down, her face turning red as she called out, confused about what she was seeing swinging below. The man, now Yang Jun, lifted a large weapon and casually said it was just an axe handle. In his head, he admitted that she had startled him for a second, since he'd briefly worried he might have forgotten to put on clothes. A full system screen appeared in front of him. LV2. Mushroom Man Chief Yang Jun. Rank Chief. Class, Warrior, Blue. Primary Stat, Strength. Racial Talent, Mushroom Man Mycelium. He noted that after taking damage, he could extend mycelium to absorb nutrients from corpses or other materials to heal. During that process, he could also take in enemy skills and racial traits. Racial Talent Absorbed. Orc Berserk. He saw that it had a 5-minute cooldown and boosted his damage by 30% for 20 seconds, making it ideal for close combat. Another notification appeared, explaining that his plant mushroom skill had upgraded. Now he could release spores from his body, plant them into corpses or nutrient sources, and grow soulless shroom minions. Their experience would be shared with him, and they could even be transferred onto other minions. The system showed he could currently control 2. Then came the loot summary. Other loot. Magic Pouch X2. He read that they were small pouches capable of compressing and storing a limited number of items, including weapons. Now dressed in some ragged clothes he'd picked up earlier, Yang Jun looked over at Saifeng and asked how they were supposed to get out of this place. She explained that they were at the lowest floor of the mushroom dungeon and would have to fight their way up, one level at a time. He questioned why level 1 orc players could go straight to the bottom. Saifeng replied that players had certain advantages and could choose to enter lower-level dungeons directly. When he asked how she knew that, she said she had picked it up from player chats back when she was still an NPC. Yang Jun decided they'd push their way out. The two walked together until they reached a split in the path. He asked what was on each side. Saifeng told him the left path led to a level 1 slime floor, while the right led to a graveyard. He told her to head to the slime floor and farm experience while he checked out the graveyard. She didn't quite get why, but his eyes gave off a sharp red glow as he explained that even if it was just a graveyard now, it would eventually become their territory. With that, he headed off alone into the darker path, noting how strong the smell was even from a distance. He spotted a massive pile of bones and waste. He figured that corpses and garbage must have been dumped down from somewhere above. Even though the pile had been sitting there for a long time, he could tell there were still usable nutrients left. As he scanned through the debris, a few items stood out to him. Residual large potion, and humus mixture residual tar, and humus mixture torn magic book, and humus mixture. He noted that aside from Siphon, he still had room to create one more shroom minion. Raising his hand, pink energy began to swirl over the scattered bones and discarded materials as he started planting. When the light faded, a small mushroom stood at the center, a white body topped with a jagged red crown that flickered like fire. A system window appeared, showing the new minion's details. Level 2. Pyro Shroom. Primary stat: Fire. Skill: Pyroblast. Fires a blast that explodes on impact, setting the target's limbs on fire and draining nutrient. Skill: Blazing Sprint. Boosts movement speed by 50% using fire. Yang Jun looked it over, noting that it gave off a fierce presence, even if its size was on the smaller side. Before he could react further, blue lightning suddenly spread across the cavern. A massive deep blue snail slid into view, its glowing antennae sparking as arcs of electricity moved across its thick shell. A system tag identified it as a Level 2 Graveyard Dominator, a lightning snail. Yang Jun kept watching, recognizing it as a creature that fed on the same kind of nutrients as mushroom men. In his mind, that made it direct competition. He decided it was the perfect chance to see what the Pyro Shroom could do. The Pyro Shroom ignited, gathering a large fireball above its head before launching a pyroblast. The attack shot forward and struck the snail, triggering a heavy explosion that filled the area with flames and thick smoke. As the smoke drifted away, the snail's scorched body came into view, still crackling with leftover electricity. Yang Jun observed that its movements were slow, quietly noting that this was something he could take advantage of. The Pyro Shroom activated Blazing Sprint, turning into a streak of fire as it rushed forward. It unleashed another explosion against the snail's shell, sending a loud blast echoing through the cavern. When the smoke cleared again, the snail lay still, looking like it was finished. From a nearby ridge, Yang Jun called out, telling the Pyro Shroom to stop wasting time and check properly if the enemy was really dead. The Pyro Shroom moved closer to the smoking body, closing the distance without hesitation. Then, in an instant, everything changed. Its body split cleanly into two from the neck, blue lightning tearing through it as crackling energy wrapped around the remains. The lightning snail slowly lifted itself, its body stretching upward while electricity pulsed across its shell. From above, Yang Jun jumped down from the ledge, heading straight toward it. As he came in, a powerful strike slammed into the ground and shattered it, but the snail avoided the attack. It gave off a mocking reaction, as if saying he still could not land a proper hit. A second later, the lightning snail surged forward from behind, trying to catch him off guard. But Yang Jun blocked the attack and pushed back with a rapid series of slashes. He kept attacking, but the snail spoke up, mocking him and saying he was just as slow as a snail. As the fight went on, Yang Jun started noticing the change. The creature had already thrown away its shell, leaving behind a slick, slug-like body. Right as Yang Jun moved in again, the monster jumped up and avoided the strike. Yang Jun turned and followed its movement, realizing that without the shell, the creature had become incredibly fast, almost like lightning. The creature dashed along the cavern walls, covered in crackling energy. Yang Jun noted that without its shell, it seemed much lighter. The monster showed a sharp grin, its glowing eyes locked onto him, then rushed straight at him at full speed. Right behind Yang Jun, a massive burst of orange flames exploded outward, and the attack connected directly with the lightning snail. The creature was caught inside the fire vortex as it formed around it, flames swirling intensely and closing in from all sides.